Here we go. Oh, it did copy it. Nice. Let's see if it records. It seems to be doing well. Okay. Let me just get things set up here on the YouTube. There we go. Test this out. That's too low. I think I gotta do it like this. Hold on. All right, testing. All right, testing. All right, I think we did it. Here we go. What it's doing this weird thing. You know what? I'm gonna do something else. Hold on. I don't like using these earbuds. Looks like we have to do that. They're heavy. I don't like using these earbuds. Looks like we have to do that. They're heavy. See if you're doing okay. See, it looks like it's working now. Okay. All right. One of them is like not charging, so there's that. Right. And our one didn't charge. Right. And our one didn't charge. Yeah, I think this is it. I think we just got to do it like this. Yeah, I think this is it. I think we just got to do it like this. All right. Well, welcome to another show here where we're going to be talking about some interesting conversations. You got to excuse my voice. It's extremely shot. Tinfoil Hat is the show, and your host is going to be Illicit Therapy. A tinfoil cap, excuse me. So I don't even know my fucking title, but my voice is hella shot right now. So please bear with it. We have two topics to talk about. Sorry for it taking so long to kind of get set up, but normally we wait till this fills up anyway. And that's what we ended up doing. We have two different topics to discuss today. One being about Horizon and its perception. Seems that there's a lot of people that are very vocal about this game, but they're vocal about this game negatively, which is always an interesting thing. If anybody knows who I am or have followed me on PSN or Twitter or YouTube, you would know that this is one of the games that is near and dear to me. As a matter of fact, Guerrilla Games is a very important developer to me. Why? It's not anything social at all. Nothing to do with that. It's just that they animate characters very well. Their graphics look really nice. And their gameplay is pretty damn sound. They have this balance of reality where it's kind of real, but not, it's always hyper realistic. Even when it came to the Killzone franchise, I always liked that from them. So when they moved from Killzone to Horizon, it was an open world game. And if you know me, I love open world games. Like, I absolutely love open world games. And it doesn't take much for me to enjoy your game if it's open world. It really doesn't. And that's what we're going to talk about. We are going to talk about that. I'm going to take a look and see if my shit is all fucked up. Wait, what? To enjoy your game. Yep, it's working. Okay. I may be just a little bit loud, so please bear with it. But it is what it is. Anyway, we're going to begin with the topic here and talk about why people think it's like they think that the title is boring all the time, or it's shallow. And it's always been a very interesting thing for me as to why people feel that way. I never really understood that. And that's an interesting thing for me. Like, I really do think that needs to be talked about. After we discuss this, we're going to talk about just how society is at this moment and how everyone kind of gets corralled into a certain mindset. But that's an off-topic or off-brand topic, I should say. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, is Horizon a boring game? Me and a friend of mine actually discussed this ad nauseum. I mean, for the last year, over and over and over again, we talk about, why do people think a Souls game is really interesting? That's the game that he likes in particular. And then all of a sudden, just in general, Guerrilla Games, we want to focus on Horizon and why people think that Horizon is such a boring game. And it's like, when you do look at Horizon and how it's actually been played, you see all the action. There's no way that you can literally believe that this is a situation where the game is boring. So what's the perception? And truthfully, I believe it's Guerrilla Games' lack of, I think it's the lack of them explaining their game mechanics to a person. I feel like Guerrilla Games in general, even since Killzone, their games literally had some of the most complicated mechanics. They are extremely complex as a game. So I think that's what's going on. I feel like their games play very atypical as a game, and people will play it typically and not be able to express or explore the amount of gameplay mechanics that it has. You gotta understand too, Killzone is a game. Guerrilla Games is a studio that makes shooters. That's what's going on. Let me test it. I have to always test the gameplay. There we go. You always gotta test it because you never know with YouTube. The thing about Horizon, right, is that it is the thing about Guerrilla Games that they make shooters. That's what they do. And even though that Horizon, Zero Dawn, and Forbidden West, they're RPGs, they're still shooters at its heart. but they're shooters with some kind of RPG elements. They kind of play close to, what is that game called again? Oh man, it's the one with Tiny Tina that Ashley Burch she messes with. What is it? Oh my gosh, I can't. I see it in my head. It's the cell shaded game. Either way, it's more along the lines of a shooter with RPG elements. You know, and not only that, because it's a shooter, they want you to continuously shoot and maneuver yourself multiple, just for extended amount of time. You just have to be constantly monitoring your surroundings, and the AI is not even anything to play with at the moment, and they don't give you any breaks. And then on top of it, you play the game in a very, how can I put it, a traditional way, and that's when it starts to fall apart. When they made Horizon Zero Dawn, it was a very simple game. You didn't really need the RPG elements, truthfully, other than just have a better weapon. That was pretty much it, and that's fine. That's fine, and I don't necessarily mind that. But a lot of people kind of taken that and they were like, "Well, Horizon is not really an RPG. What Horizon is, it is an action game." And I'm like, well, it has RPG elements in there. And they're like, well, it's an action game with RPG elements. I'm like, well, developers say that it was an action RPG. They said that themselves. And to which these people say that they were lying. When they started to incorporate more RPG elements, it threw a wrench into everybody perceives Horizon to be. Everyone just did not know how. It was surprising and very off-putting. It was a game that was more complicated, more complicated than the other games. As a matter of fact, I personally think it's one of the most complicated games that Sony has under their belt in terms of them being first party. Usually their games are very story-driven, whether it's open world or not, and the action or RPG elements are very light. So most of the stuff that you're doing is a little bit of action, story beats, a little bit of action, story beats, a little bit of action, story beats. And I think another thing too is that people kind of, they don't know how to take the art style of Horizon. It's very colorful, but it's very realistic. But it's like, what is it trying to do? And it's art style. It's not anime. It's and it's even more realistic in Forbidden West. It's like way more realistic in Forbidden West than the previous game. Like it's pretty crazy. So you got to think to yourself, like, why are people like literally saying that this game is boring then? And like I said before, I think the reason why people say it's boring is flat out and quite simply, Guerrilla Games failed to explain how they want you to play the game. They want the Souls treatment is what they want, where you have to explore, exactly. We have to explore exactly what you all the tools essentially. They want you to explore them, and people don't got no time for that. When you have a Sony exclusive, people just want spectacle and they don't want to think that much. That's not a negative take towards Sony or Guerrilla Games or the fan base or anybody that plays the game. That's just what Sony kind of cultivated. They cultivated these games that are very visually stunning, high action, and to be honest with you, kind of low in substance. That's just what it is. Sony is trying to break out of this particular kind of rut that they're in, where people don't take their game seriously and it doesn't have any longevity. It should have longevity. You could be able to play any game that you want to play, and it shouldn't matter. But Sony wants people to play their games longer. Everybody else can play an Assassin's Creed game longer. Everybody else can play a Zelda game longer. Everybody else can play a Mario game longer, or Souls games, or any of these things. When it comes to Sony games, you look crazy for playing them more than once. People are like, you already got your story out of it. Why are you playing it anymore? It's like, well, I mean, because I kind of enjoy the gameplay. And people are like, I mean, it's not bad, but there's other games that are more complex, and you're like, well, did you try it? So again, that requires a reputation. You have to eventually get that reputation of having a decent game, a complicated game. You're just going to have a reputation of that, and Sony doesn't have that yet, and that is unfortunate. That is a very unfortunate thing that Sony has to deal with now. They're going to have to deal with it. People do not take their games seriously, point blank, period. It is what it is. So I would kind of move forward with this, right? And kind of talk about like, well, why do you say that these games are more complicated? Why are you saying that this is a more complicated game than what I've played? Well, like I said before, I believe that Horizon is one of those games that are more complicated than any Sony game that they've made. Other than, I think, Gran Turismo, there are only two games that have a lot of systems going on at play. When it comes to Horizon, if you've played RPGs before, then you will understand they all have status effects. And if you play a typical JRPG, the status effects are typically like magic, right? And you have fire magic, lightning magic, ice, and shit like that. Well, you kind of got that here, but since the lore and the story is based off of real world stuff, so you have technology, what kind of chemicals will be used to terraform the earth or make these machines run. So you got stuff to like coolant that they call chill water, or you got blaze that you have to burn the environment so you can create fertile soil, or you have acid, right, or corrosive abilities, which is used to melt down metal so they can process it to use it to build structures or build new machines. And you have obviously the lightning, which is just electricity or power cells. You got things like that. So those statuses affect you and it affects the machines. Now, they had this in the first game, right? But you did not have to use like 70% of these things. And as a matter of fact, every enemy was actually susceptible to frost, which will essentially make the machines brittle. It makes it brittle so much so that if you do get your machine into a brittle state, it essentially doubles the damage of what you can shoot. So what do? To make it very easy, you brittle the hell out of it. You make it brittle. You get your strongest weapon, whether it be those bombs, right? And you shoot it, and the life whittles down and it dies, right? The game had these systems where they had armor plates, but if you could make it freeze an enemy, what does it matter if you can freeze an enemy? It'd just be frozen, and then that's it. That's how it was in the original Horizon. I think people just enjoy a simple romp where they just jumped in and jumped out. When Sony started to make these more complicated games, and like I said, Horizon is a very complicated game. When you started adding these systems in there, the armor plates that are on the machines are very much part of the gameplay. There is no brittle that you can make. It is very expensive to collect brittle material, frost material. And some enemies are already very cold. So making them freeze doesn't do anything to the machine. So you're going to try something else, which is corrosive. Corrosive doesn't necessarily kill the enemy, but what it will do is it will break down the armor. Because if you shoot the machine while in its armor plate, it'll eat up 80% of the damage, which means that you have to physically go after weak spots, the little muscle things in between the armor plates, or eyes, or something that's fragile. That's the only way you can get damage. And these machines are jiggling and gyrating, rolling around. It makes it very, very hard to get these things. But you need a lot of material that, have these corrosive abilities. You need a lot of material to have these corrosive abilities. And so it becomes like a chore, and they still don't really die the way that you want to. They've nerfed a lot of different weapons as well for you to use the other ones. stuff like tying down an enemy. You have to cock the machine back or the weapon back all the way for it to tie or go or penetrate the armor to keep it steady. And these enemies are more aggressive. So you're going to have to really, really, really focus on trying to do what you need to do. That's just what it is. That's how they have it set up. You don't tell me that's what it is. Not only that, but Aloy herself has statuses as well. If she gets hit by things that are corrosive, then her armor gets affected. Enemies can scream and it can disorient her, and you can't use your weapons at all. They can stomp on the ground. They can interrupt your abilities and stuff like that. They have all sorts of things with Aloy. And then on top of it, you still have to have the RPG element. I mean, you still have to have the adventure elements, the open world elements, and leveling elements, and skill trees, and all this other stuff that needs to be balanced out with these machines and stuff like that. They have a ton of fucking weapons, and you can't have all of them at once. So when you go out, you're going to have to pick and choose what type of weapons to go out there, and you're going to have to be very accurate to take these machines down in any kind of semblance of timely manner. That's the problem with this game. You can't just casually play it. And so people refuse to accept Sony's games as being casual anymore. And it's no fun to play. Not only that, but it also deviates from Sony's storytelling. This is a sci-fi game. In sci-fi, not everybody's interested in how systems and computers and AI works. No one cares too much anymore. You know, they just want it to work and call it a day. What they care about is love, and what they care about is betrayal, and what they care about is heavy action and comedy. And this game doesn't have those elements in there because it's a massive antagonist. No one had the main characters have any time for that. Aloy herself is apparently not a likable character because hey, she doesn't have drama. That's just what it is. It sucks that's how things are going. She doesn't have drama, and thus people just flat out don't really care about the character. She's not a sexy babe where she's like revealing her tits and her G line and everything else. So you can't ogle her like that either. You know what I mean? You can't customize Aloy. She has a pretty set personality in terms of how she looks. And in Horizon, you got characters that are less than perfect. They have crooked teeth. Some of them are cross-eyed. Some of them have vitiligo. You know, some of them are ugly. Some of them are beautiful. Different races. And people want a sensationalized medium. That's why when you had Avengers, they found a whole bunch of good-looking people. You can't have an Avengers when you have Disney with a set of ugly people. That doesn't work. You know what I mean? There's no one to kind of look up to. We're going to talk about that later, but yeah, there's no one to look up to. And so Aloy becomes boring. She has a very regular personality, surprisingly regular for any medium, where, you know, she wasn't really she was an outcast, and she doesn't have any kind of social, you know, etiquette or anything like that. You know, she's been basically alone, so she talks a lot to herself, and she doesn't know how to interact with people, and you know, she's not an ugly girl either. I don't know. It's just one of those things where the game looks super inclusive as well because of these things, and it doesn't fit the norm. I mean, you can't get mad at people for not wanting something that doesn't visually look appealing. Imagine if they did Avengers and you had an ugly character. Ugly characters. People were cross-eyed and messed up teeth and stuff. People were like, what the hell is this shit? You're going to have to do a lot to make that an interesting character. And I'm sorry, people can get mad all day about that statement. It just is what it is. Even the most liberal person are interested in people like Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion and anybody that's attractive. You know, Chris Evans. They can say that you go girl and rally all this up, but people are literally attracted to whatever the fuck looks good, whether it's a car or a house or what. It's just how we are wired. If it has a certain symmetry, that is what it is. Period. So Horizon suffers from being too complicated and a little bit too down to earth and not that much drama. And that is all a cocktail to say that the game is boring. People are so used to RPGs where you can kind of keep doing something for a certain amount of time to build up a meter, and then you earn a particular special attack where you can get a break and then watch something cool happen. That's what people are used to. They don't do that here. When you get your special meter, you still have to focus it and aim it. It is what it is. It is very tiring. It's not that it's bad. It's against the norm. And people like easier games. Even the most avid person that can sit there and say that the Souls games are very complex. It is a very systematic, pattern-based game. That's what the Souls games are. It's very pattern-based. You know? And so that even if the game is kicking your ass, all you gotta do is step back and look at the patterns. And if you don't feel like looking at the patterns, all you gotta do is go on YouTube and look at someone else's pattern and then emulate it. The game is random in Horizon, so you're gonna have to kind of really have skill, like legitimate skill. You can't just do what you want to do, even with your super that you earned. You know, that's why it keeps getting called boring. It doesn't have anything to keep people's interest with a love story or a drama story or some kind of hurt or trauma story. They had that in the first one, and notice how they moved away from that, and people automatically call this one a boring game. So you have reviewers that are sitting there like, I mean, it's a good game. I mean, the gameplay is pretty good. All they did, these reviewers and media outlets, turned that bitch to easy and kept it moving so they can review Elden Ring or whatever game that they were reviewing. A lot of people review Elden Ring and didn't even fucking beat it. Now, it's curious here. No knock to Elden Ring, but why did Elden Ring get such high reviews? Me and my friend talked about this too. And I have a theory. I truly believe that art style really makes or breaks a game. I do. The whole Dungeons and Dragons, we are in an age of fantasy. We don't want to look at things realistic unless it looks really fucking good. And even then, when people bought Horizon, all of the things that I mentioned brought it down. With Elden Ring, you can at least, if you're getting your ass kicked, walk away. And you don't have a story to necessarily follow. All you gotta do is look around and look at the environmental storytelling, kind of make your own story. And you don't have to finish it either. You don't have to finish it, you know? I played, what do you call it? Hogwarts. And I was like, wow, it really felt good when I first played it. I was like, this is seemingly Game of the Year contender. I haven't really messed around with any kind of, you know, Harry Potter medium. But as I started playing the game, I was like, this is the true definition of repetitive and how things can get worse over time. You know what I mean? But the art style will carry it. And the gameplay mechanics are just not that complicated. You can blast through that game and put it on easy, beat the game, and just absorb the story and call it a day. Sony went on this crusade of making these games a little bit more like, you know, tactical. I don't think it's their downfall, but shit, it is difficult. It is difficult in this day and age to not make your game easy or make it at least systematic or pattern-based so somebody can feel good about themselves. Games where you aim down sights and it aims for you as he brings up the gun. No one likes a real challenge. Even, you know, and I know, you know how I know that's true? Because Returnal came out. And it came out in the time frame that Souls games are doing really well. So if that's the case, right? Why did people say that Returnal was too hard? This is a different game? No, Returnal is a game where it challenges you, like legitimately challenges you. And people don't want that. You still want to feel good at the end of the day. And if the game is constantly challenging you, you don't like it. Now, how can they fix this in the future? Do they make the game easier? No. They have all of the elements. All of the elements are there. It's perfect. It's just organized horribly. Instead of you having these little shield weapons where you can, you use the, what do you call it? What is it? A trip caster and all that other stuff. Yeah, trip caster. And you can shoot out these shields. The bitch has a fucking shield wing. Just use that. All these rope tethering things. You have a fucking pole caster. Just have ammo and just use that. You know what I mean? Why do you have to have a whole new system just to do something? Why can't this bitch block and she has a fucking shield? The enemies have a fucking shield. The enemies have supers too, where they'll do something and do like a cool little flip and then shoot. You don't got that. Why don't you have that? Those things. You can still have the tactical things like you have in there, but it needs to be cleaned up. Take these unnecessary weapons out. And shout out to Dubug, Ken, to giving me this information. I fought him tooth and nail for this shit. I did not want to admit to it. I was upset about it. I was like, damn it. It doesn't need these stupid, you saying that all these weapons are redundant. And he was kind of half right and half wrong, right? He was a little bit of both. Because ultimately, right, some weapons are redundant, like I told you, the trip caster, rope caster, you know what I mean? And she's a huntress that uses bow and arrow. That should be her primary shit. And she has a spear. And just focus on the stuff that she's good at. And if you want to add all these other extra shit, well, why don't you make another character? Make a co-op character for, Horizon 3, where you can beat the game in co-op form. You're already starting it. You know what I mean? And I can see the direction that they're going in this third game using the DLC as a rubric, right? Speaking of the DLC, that is a fun piece of software. It really is. But they also broke their own rules of their own creation. When people get mad at me and they talk about marginalized groups and blah, 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 blah. Who cares? Who cares if it's a kiss? Who cares? It's not about the kiss. You know what it is? It's quite simply the fact that they said they weren't going to add romantic options. That's what it is. Now you add it in there. And yes, you do have a choice to say yes or no, and that's fine. But I'm going to tell you right now, Guerrilla Games, if you're listening, you better make full well if you want money, because I know this game was extremely expensive. If you want money, you need to don't go that way. Don't go that way. You know what way I'm talking about. If you want to make it fair for everybody, then she needs to have a choice, whether she wants to be with a guy or a girl. You are going to get extremely bad press and you're going to lose a customer, including me. Call me a bigot. I don't give a fuck. I am a straight guy, and in my core being, I like to see families that have their own kids and grow their own kids. It'd be cool for Aloy to get pregnant and have her own kid. Elizabeth didn't. You just can't do that. Her own genetic kid as a lesbian. There's something inherited in me that wants to see a legacy. That's just what it is. If you don't give choice, I'm going to automatically assume that you're doing it for for a particular reason. The world is about to end violently in this game. And that's why she chose not to have a love interest, period. For anybody, she shut everybody down. You insistent on making Aloy flirt with the character in there. And you had other interests as well. You had Ava, you had Petra, you had a lot of different people that you could have fleshed out from the original game. You decided not to do it. You made a new character. What role does she have in a new game? Who knows? Maybe there's a role. I'm going to tell you right now, Guerrilla Games, if you want your money and you want people to get off your back, you're already the redheaded stepchild when it comes to Sony Studios. They only think that you're all about graphics and you have bomb-ass gameplay, bomb-ass story, bomb-ass graphics. Do not go that way where you start singling people out. It won't work. It won't work out for you. I guarantee you. I have a feeling when you have a studio that was supposed to release something after a crazy debacle, and it took you 3 years and you still don't have anything to show for it other than a remake. I believe something happened there. Can't prove it. And you're going to hear a lot of people talk about bigotry and all that. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. It's very irritating, but I hear it. I want to see what I want to see, just like you want to see what you want to see. Y'all want to see Aloy as a lesbian and want to have a different relationship. I want to see a traditional family as well. I want to do both. I don't see what the problem is. You shouldn't have to single people out to make a point. Do both. That way you can get yourself completely out of the clear. We all knew that Aloy had these tendencies, the way that you guys had it set up, and that's fine. But if you don't allow her to do both, it's going to be ugly for you, Guerrilla Games. You're going to lose a lot of money. And I believe you said in one of your reviews that if this game wasn't a hit, your ass would have been out. The original Horizon, because Killzone didn't make it. And this game was the biggest game you ever made. Gotta tread carefully. Don't do the Naughty Dog shit, where you start alienating people. People like what they like because of the original one. You can't alienate people for liking what they like. Make another IP if you want to do something different. That's cool. I don't think anybody has a problem with that. I really don't. I don't think that people have a problem with options. You said you weren't going to do these options and you ended up doing it kind of anyway. So go the full Monty. You know, people were mad about Aloy not being able to climb, right? And so you allowed her to kind of climb. You have the system there to climb and you section it off for some reason. You had a melee system that was very deep and you didn't want to explore more into that. I mean, you're doing it now for the DLC, but like, this is why you can't half-ass shit. You got to get different focus groups and people that are more objective to what you need to do, or else it's not going to end well for you, because I know your boss like money. It is what it is. Now, my second topic that I wanted to talk about is kind of relating to Horizon. Artificial society, right? I made a space, I believe it was Thursday, and this space was about the DLC and this, and well, it was about in general, like corporate brownie points and how these game companies are providing these brownie points or trying to look for brownie points by signaling to marginalized groups. And the type of vitriol I received making that space, and I thought I articulated myself very well. I don't think, I know that's one of the things that I can do well. It's part of my actual real life job. I've articulated, I don't like any company exploiting marginalized groups. This is not about lesbians. This is about marginalized groups and being used or exploited to make yourself look better. I don't like shit like that in any capacity. And then somehow me saying that turned out that I was some sort of homophobe immediately. And these crazy ass names to prove a point. And I see this a lot in society. If you don't flow with the rest of society, then what they'll do is they will call you a name that is some of the most ugliest names. And they will take your shit out of context so everybody will flow with it. That's an ugly thing to do. These particular people that claim that they are very liberal, and want people to do what they want to do, are the most closed-minded people I've ever encountered. Ever. It is an artificial society that seemingly is free and you can do whatever you want, but the second you step out of line, then you will get ostracized completely. It's the damnedest thing. How you don't care what people want to do. You can do what you want to do. You can be free. You can be a man if you're a woman. You can be a woman if you're a man. You can be a dog if you wanted to. All the other stuff. But the second you want to be like a traditional, then no, you can't do that. Not like that. You can be free, but not like that. I find it very interesting, and I would like to know who's pulling the strings when it comes to what society is supposed to think. How do you get to a point where you would like let's say women, right? How do you get to a point where you would like to be a stay-at-home mom and have kids, and this bitch gets blasted because she just wants to do that? How dare you? You're being shackled, you know what I mean, and constrained by the patriarchy because you want to be a mother. Where did this come from? I don't understand this. I was asking the question, I was going to name it something else, and I kind of didn't really want to deal with the headache of trying to explain myself, especially on the Twitter social media app. That wouldn't bode well for me at all because people don't fucking listen. It almost feels like I can't be straight anymore because that's a problem. If I want to have a wife and a kid and have her, let me provide for her, there's a problem with that. It's weird to me. If I don't want my child to know about anything else but the curriculum, I don't care, then that's a problem. If I don't want to respect pronouns and call you by your actual name in your birth certificate or whatever it is, if you change your name, if that's your name changes what it is, then I can't say it. Like I have to address you by a pronoun and then your name. I've never seen this before. It's unprecedented to me that we've created, or something created, this artificial society where you can't say certain things, even on YouTube. I thought this was a society where things was free, but because of people's feelings getting hurt, you can't say what you want to say anymore. I remember 10 years ago how volatile being on Xbox Live was. The people would say the most outrageous shit on live. And you know what happened? It goes back to, I'm 38, it goes back to when I was younger and I used to get bullied when I was 8. And we used to go by this saying, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words can never hurt you. That's what we used to kind of go by. That's the mantra we did. As long as you don't put your fucking hands on me, it wouldn't make a difference. And now we're in a space where it's terroristic threats. If I misgender you, you can't even say, R space, A space, P space, E space online anymore without getting censored. In any kind of context, I gotta say grape. And people are okay with this particular censorship. They are totally okay with it. This society where it looks like you have all the freedom in the world, we are the most censored I've ever seen in the 38 years I've lived. I've never seen anything like this before in my life. You can't even say someone is overweight or fat because you're phobic after that shit. Anything that they don't like that breaks their own reality, you become an enemy. And then they have government systems so you can't, so that it can protect their lifestyle. Just overeating or consuming. And then on top of it, we got people that smoke weed all the fucking time. I come from an era where you just say no, nigga, say no. Find some other outlet. Play some fucking ball. Play some basketball. Run. Jog, bitch. You can kill two birds with one stone. Release serotonin, and you can keep that fat off of you. But no, nobody want to do that. And then I'm going to go back to saying this. Is it okay to be straight anymore? Is it okay? Is that a ridiculous statement to make? I would like to see a male and a female character get together, because I want to aspire to do the same thing. I want to have my own wife and kids, right? And pass on my genetic material to the next generation. That's what I would like to do. But the second I say this, society is so engineered. You had your turn. You had to turn. Look how many white characters are there. Look how many straight characters are there. Now it's time for us. You know how ridiculous that shit sounds? You know how ridiculous it is? That's like a woman telling me I get promoted because I bust my ass. No, you can't get promoted. You had your turn. You sat there, you set up the patriarchy. Bitch, I didn't set up the patriarchy. I was even there and you weren't alive either. It had nothing to do with it. I worked hard for this. No, you can't have it. Let the women step in, because you know what? You guys had to turn. I never did anything. I had an interesting argument, right? Where this black guy, he had so much vitriol for white people that he hated any white person. See, you know, it's a funny thing, right? You can be racist in different directions. You know what I mean? But no one calls out certain directions. I don't like racism at all, period. I don't care who the fuck it is. Because as a black man, we are the most racist people to ourselves. I don't like it. I've never liked it. But here this dude is, he goes ahead and he talks about, I can't stand these fucking crackers and shit like that. I was like, oh, whoa. I said, so if a 13-year-old walks up to you, you would hate him too? Yeah, I don't like that motherfucker. Why? What did he do? I don't care. He has privilege. He don't even know it. He doesn't even know it. You wouldn't hate somebody that wasn't even a part of it. And this is what I feel like as a heterosexual dude. I just want what I normally will see. What's in my life. And in that fucking space, like, tore me the fuck apart for wanting options. And not wanting to be, monetized because of my marginalized group. This is the society that we're living in. Like, I have to take a back seat for what reason? Why do I got to take a back seat? I didn't do it to you. What should I suffer? Why can I want what I want? How come I can't play Stellar Blade the way I want to play it without people saying, oh, he's a beard neck? I want to look at something nice. Oh, it's just pixels. Okay. Well, you can't have your gay character. That's just pixels too. Like, I don't understand. It's just weird to me that certain groups are placed into hierarchies because of some shit that happened a little bit ago. I don't like, but people struggle. I get it. People struggle. They struggle. We had a lot of fucking adversities. But I can tell you, my ass was never whipped in the cotton fields. I'm sorry. If you didn't treat me wrong, I don't give a fuck. If you look differently and didn't treat me wrong, you got my respect. Well, however way you look and you treat me wrong, you don't have my respect. It's just as black and white as you want it. That's it. I don't run around hating people and they didn't even do anything, particularly that individual. And yet we are cultivated in a society that hate groups of people, whether it be women hating men for God knows what the fuck reason. Straights hating gays, gays hating straights. Everybody is so fragmented in this society. How is it supposed to run when everyone hates each other? How does it work? You can't make it run. Who do you trust? How can you can't even agree to disagree anymore. You can't do that either. If I went around and said I was a Democrat, then the Republicans going to hate my fucking guts to the point where they may break my windows and vice versa, right? That's what we're living in. We're not living in facts. Someone said in that space, we live in a world of perception. Perception is more important than reality. Perception is reality. No, the fuck it isn't. That's the kind of crazy Looney Tunes shit that we're dealing with. Perception is reality. That's why we are here. In this fucked up place where we feel like I'm in a fucking dream every day I wake up. Every day I wake up, I feel like this is some weird ass fucking dream. Some sort of purgatory. Where people don't have any logic anymore. They feel offended about whatever they feel fucking offended about. You can't even be yourself any fucking more. You gotta follow society, whatever artificial constructs society in places on you. That's what we're dealing with now. Can't even be a fucking Christian anymore. I can't even be a fucking Christian anymore. How ridiculous is that shit? That's the shit that blows me away. I can't be a Christian anymore. No more. You wanna know why I can't be a Christian anymore? Because the invisible nigga in the sky doesn't exist. The same people that will say I can't be a Christian are the same people that will read up about a fucking horoscope and will base their entire lives on when the sun and moon set and what planets orbited the earth at the time of birth. And that changed their reality and perception. They'll believe that fucking frivolity, but they won't believe anything the fuck else. It's cool to be against the traditional values. It's a cool thing. You're cool. You're free. You're not free because you don't follow tradition. You're not free at all. You just jumped from a fire into a fucking frying pan. Now you have to deal with the ridiculous concepts that we're dealing with now. And you can't step out of line or else you lose your social points. You don't have an individual, you're not an individual anymore. You are a hive mind. This is why you can go to a Walmart, a Publix, a Starbucks, and the same type of archetype of women will be there, where they have the same stupid ass baby hairs glued to their fucking foreheads, and the same bonnets and all the other fucking shit. And you sit there, you listen to fucking trap music, and everybody has fucking dreads and tattoos all over their fucking face. And the same people that are from the LGBT community have the same type of archetype and accent all the time. That's the type of shit that you placed yourself in. You placed yourself in a fucking box and you don't even know it. You're not an individual. You're just a hive mind. You're a bee. You're a worker bee. I had to step on that soapbox because of that space. I had to. I just couldn't believe the silliness that was going on in there about a chick that hated me because I said, I don't want my group to be monetized. And she thought I was a bigot. And you just throw crazy ass words around that sounds cool because the rest of everybody society is doing this shit. You didn't even want to hear me out. I could sit there and talk to him blue in the face about what I actually mean, and I articulate well when it comes to my points. It still didn't make a difference. And I thought that these people were stupid. They're not stupid, they're just programmed. They're robots, bees. That's what they are. Just following society. You know what I mean? I'm gonna wrap this little bit up by the most egregious thing that I am super irritated with, right? It's not about LGBTQ community. It's not about being Black. It's not white people. I have a couple of friends that think that I'm fat phobic and you can't tell them anything because they are extremely overweight. That's my biggest fucking problem. People want to know why I post pictures of me exercising. or walking outside without a shirt on, despite the fact that you probably see that if you were on the beach, is to try to at least inspire you to get off your fucking ass and work out. Not a special fucking being. You'd rather sit at home and play games all fucking day until you have a cardiac fucking arrest or have a stroke. That's what bothers me. And society will sit there and tell you that that's okay. Keep eating. Keep getting sick. Get your diabetes on, man. I'm looked at as a health nut. I'm not a health nut. I just do things in moderation. Tomorrow I'm gonna fuck up some donuts. Probably all 12 of them end up in the fucking 2 pints of ice cream. You know, I can do that because in moderation. I don't do it often. Do it once a week. You know, but I can't tell people anything because they're so brainwashed. It really is like the fucking Matrix. I never even thought I would be in the day that I would say that shit. People are so, they're in a prison for their minds. They really think that they're free by following society, and they're just engineered. They're just socially engineered to believe whatever society is pushing them to do. It's an interesting study. You should study it. You really should. By the way, that is it for me. I don't really give a fuck what the fallout is. I don't think I said anything of hate crime or whatever the fuck that gets thrown around. I really don't. I'm just speaking my truth and how I feel about society at large. That's basically it. I don't think I said anything crazy. Try to really be an individual, you know what I mean, and start expressing how you feel instead of worried about what society is trying to tell you. As long as you're not harming anybody, your ideology, your own personal ideology shouldn't be a problem. You can always feel a certain kind of way about certain things without making people hate. You know what I mean? You're not harming people for having an idea. You're really not. Everyone else is pushing ideas onto you. You got fucking white people that are afraid of their own persons. They don't want to be themselves because society says you're a horrible person. I have a lot of white friends. That's a ridiculous fucking thing to say. And you got black people that sit there and think they can't make it out of the ghetto because society said that they can't, and they're being oppressed. So we're